Welcome to STARFISH Speaks on WERE 1490. We're so pleased to be here to bring you information about resources in our community, current events in education, hot topics, and ideas to make parenting your special needs child or young adult enriching and hopefully fun. We hope you'll join us in our discussion today by calling 216-578-1490. We hope STARFISH Speaks becomes an important part of your Sunday afternoon. So grab a cup of coffee and join us in discussion. I'm Donna Gilcher, the host of STARFISH Speaks, and today I have Greg Stewart co-hosting. Welcome, Greg. Glad you're back.
Thank you. It's good to be back. It's always good to be here.
Yeah. So today we have some friends in our studio with us. Executive Director of Cogswell Hall, Diana Cyganovich. Welcome. And Lynette Collier.
Welcome. Thank you.
Sorry. Diana was a practicing attorney working with juveniles and family law when she stepped into the nonprofit field 30 years ago. She's the former executive director of Temple & House and has been executive director of Cogswell Hall for the past 15 years. During this time, she has led the agency to become an innovative, permanent, supportive housing program. Lynette Collier grew up on Cleveland's East Side and serves on the board of directors of Cogswell Hall, as well as being a resident. Welcome, both of you. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you very
Donna.
much. Thank you kindly.
So, we want to get started. This is a hot topic. Housing is really important for our young adults, and so we want to make sure that we meet this need because it's one of the biggest needs for independence. So if you want to join the conversation, remember to call us 216-578-1490. Give us a call, ask your questions. So Diana, can you give our listeners who aren't familiar with Cogswell Hall some of the background? How was it founded? How did it come about?
Well, Cogswell Hall has a very, very interesting history. At least I find it very interesting. It was started by the Women's Christian Temperance Union, and I realize for our youngest listeners, they probably don't even realize what the Women's Christian Temperance Union was, but it was a...
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is either.
Yeah, it was an organization that not only worked on temperance issues, but also founded at least 6 different organizations in Cleveland. They did a lot of good works. And so the roots of Cogswell Hall go to 1878, when Mrs. Cogswell and some of her friends from the Women's Christian Temperance Union started an open-door mission on Cleveland's Near East Side. And then after a few years, they decided they really needed housing, so they rented a house on what was called Forest Avenue at that time. Later on, they moved to the west side, and they also decided that instead of working with young women who may be on the street or coming from the workhouse, they decided they'd work with juveniles because they figured that prevention would be better than intervention.
Yeah, I agree.
So when after having a couple of different homes on the west side in 1914, they got the land where Cogswell Hall is today, 7200 Franklin, and they built this beautiful home, and it was called the Home for the Friendless Girls, which is really funny, in today's world. And it stayed a home for young women under the age of 18 until about the 50s. In the 1950s, there were then group homes and foster care, and there was licensing of group homes. And so the organization decided that they would meet a different need in Cleveland, and that was for young women who were probably between the ages of 18 and 35, because in the 50s and 60s, we didn't know this today, but landlords wouldn't rent to women. You had to...
You're kidding me.
No. You were and you weren't considered a proper young lady if you were out on your own.
Well, we think it's bad when they won't rent to people that have disabilities.
Yeah, they would. So it stayed a home for single young women until the 70s, when landlords did start renting to women. Our mores changed in society. You weren't considered a terrible woman if you lived on your own. You were single as a single woman. And so then we became a home for women 60 and over who, women of modest means who could come to Cogswell Hall, have a room, have their meals for them, and stay independent for a very long time. And then we renovated, we expanded. We became a home for any age women, and then we became a home for men and women. And today we serve low-income men and women, adults. Almost everybody who lives at Cogswell Hall does have some life struggle, either a mental illness or an intellectual disability, or maybe a physical disability, or they're recovering from trauma or abuse.
Wow.
So we provide housing at a very low cost. It's 30% of their income. And we have services on site.
Cool.
How does Cogswell Hall address homelessness and lack of stable housing for people with disabilities?
So part of as I was saying, we're a home that people rent as permanent housing, and we base it on their income. So that if somebody is living on Social Security or SSI and they have very little income, then we can provide housing there. We're also part of the homeless continuum here in Cuyahoga County, and so we do get referrals from the shelter, from coordinated intake, and also from a system that we have where people are prioritized based on how long they've been homeless. So the people that have been more long-term homeless get housing first. And then we provide services like case management services, problem-solving services, advocacy to help people remain housed.
Okay.
Awesome.
Interesting.
So I know Greg and I know Lynette. Both have had housing issues. So here's my question to you. Can you help our widows understand how difficult is it to find quality, affordable housing in this community, especially also if you have a disability? And I don't care who goes first, Lynette or Greg.
Okay, it's hard to find housing for people with disabilities because it's for discrimination purposes and so forth. So that's why Cogswell Hall comes into play, that they offer affordable housing for people with various types of disabilities, and they feel that they can accomplish their goals.
So Lynette, do you mind sharing what your story was before you came to Cogswell?
Pardon me. I came to Cogswell Hall on May 1st of 2007.
Wow, you've been there a long time.
Yes, 10 years. And I came there from East Cleveland on the east side from Spectrum Housing. And I found the Cogswell Hall online through my former case manager, and she found me Cogswell Hall, and I told her that I'd like to check it out. So she brought me there on the tour of the facility, and I fell in love with it ever since.
What do you like best about it?
The staff and the setup, the atmosphere.
The atmosphere.
Yes.
Greg, what's been your housing? I know you've had some difficulty trying to find housing.
Yeah, when I first decided to strike out on my own, it was a bit of a challenge, especially by me having a mobility disability. You got to make sure that first and foremost it's wheelchair accessible. You got to be able to get in and out of it, especially entering the facility, going in and out of the restroom, everything, the kitchens, all of that. You got to make sure that it's not only wheelchair accessible but affordable. You don't want something that's going to eat up your budget and everything. So when I first struck out on my own, it was a bit of a challenge. Just because you see a place that has a wheelchair accessible logo on it doesn't necessarily mean that it's wheelchair accessible. Sometimes you got to go in there and check it out for yourself.
They just like the sticker?
Exactly. Sometimes you have to go in there and investigate and check it out for yourself, because at the end of the day, it benefits you anyway, and it's going to impact the way you live. So that's some of the stuff that I encountered early on.
Yeah. See, I can think of that being a really difficult kind of thing. So, Diana, you have a wide spectrum of services, I know, at Cogswell Hall. And I know you service a lot of people. So what do you consider Cogswell Hall's special niche within our community?
Well, I think there's really two things that make Cogswell Hall very special. One thing is, unlike a lot of group home services out there that serve one population, maybe they're a mental health group home or they're an intellectual disability group home, we serve people from every spectrum. We serve low-income folks. We're coming from all different walks of life. And one of the things that I think happens is people realize that, maybe somebody has a mobility impairment, or maybe somebody has a cognitive impairment, but they find that they have lots of things in common. It's more like a regular neighborhood. It's not like you're isolating a group of people that have a certain characteristic in one place. And so I really love that. There's a real dynamic there. The other thing is, as Lynette was saying, the atmosphere. People fall in love with us because our historic part of our building was built with the whole first floor is very welcoming. It's like walking into a home. You walk into a living room, you have a library, a sunroom. It's lots of informal places to gather. And when we did our expansion, we made sure that the character of the new building carried that new part of the building was carried over into that, which was a challenge. People want to build new right now without a lot of architectural characteristics that really are welcoming. They're kind of sterile. Apartment buildings are kind of sterile. So we really had to fight for that. But I think that's another thing, is because people can really gather like you would in your house. People can go into the living room and be informally together, as well as our programming. We formally do things to bring people together, lots of different programs. I think the last piece of that is we do have a dining room where we have a common kitchen, where we provide meals, and our residents for a low cost can come and have meals together. So you'll find people deciding that they're all going to meet for lunch at 12:30, and so you'll have a table of friends, that come in there and eat together every day.
You know what? That's great, because one of the things that unfortunately young adults with disabilities, especially young adults with autism and some of the higher functioning kind of disabilities, one of the things every one of the young adults I speak to says is, after I've left school, I feel so isolated. And when I moved into my apartment, the only thing I have to do is watch TV or Xbox, because there's nothing to do. I can't make friends with the people in the apartments. So it sounds like you've got almost a ready-made friend environment to be able to help nurture those relationships and build those strengths.
It's like a ready-made atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's very much a home.
Like we have various activities, like we have a supportive staff comes there every other weekends and have like creation expressions where we do different types of crafts like art projects and so forth. And I think it's fun. It keeps our minds occupied so we don't have to be bored.
Right.
That's awesome.
What do the residents of Cogswell Hall do that benefits the larger community?
Well, we have a number of residents who actually volunteer in the community. Okay. We have one woman who volunteers every day at one of the local schools in the library. It's like she's going to work every day. We have another resident who goes into one of the assisted livings in the neighborhood and volunteers. Folks also, Lynette herself, she works the polls every election day. So, that's a real contribution to our community.
Wow, so it is a lot to do then.
There is.
To keep you busy.
Yeah. And with our residents also, a year ago, did a party on the lawn. They actually wrote a proposal to Neighborhood Connections, got their own grant, did a party on the lawn for the neighborhood, which was really wonderful.
And that's something that's special to Lakewood, that they allow those parties kind of thing, I think, isn't it?
Lakewood?
Oh, it's Cleveland.
We're in Cleveland, my dear.
Border, I forget.
It's
Sorry,
borderline.
we're in Cleveland. West side of Cleveland, and just like
See,
the
I
east side of
drive
Cleveland
over
are
because you're
wonderful.
close to it. So it's a whole Cleveland, the party on the lawn.
Oh, yeah.
Everything's Cleveland initiative.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, see, I drive over and I think, because it's at that
that's,
border, I know.
That's that east side of you.
It's the east side
siders.
mentality.
We don't know where the line is.
East side mentality.
At least I'd cross the Cuyahoga River.
Yes.
All right.
Do that.
So, Diana, I know for years you've been talking and mentioning that Cogswell Hall is a housing first model. What does that mean?
What that means really is that somebody can come in and be housed regardless of how whether or not they're free of substances, whether or not they're totally stable in their mental health at that moment. And the goal is once you're housed, once you have a stable place to be, then you can start working on whatever else it is you want to work on to improve your life, whatever that might be. So that's the concept, is you house first. You don't, it used to be that in housing, people would think, oh, that person has to go through treatment and be sober first before they can be housed because they'll never make it in housing. Well, that's a fallacy. People can find stability in housing, just like all of us. It's much easier to get to the doctor. It's much easier to make whatever appointments you need to do. It's much easier to eat well. It's much easier to take care of yourself if you have a permanent place to live. So having a permanent place to live is kind of the launch pad for everything else.
Well, you just mentioned, so what if somebody has a doctor's appointment? Is there a way for them to get transportation from Cogswell Hall?
Some people take public transportation like the bus or paratransit or cab, or some residents have vehicles of their own vehicles for their own transportation. So I think, Cogswell Hall is a place where we have stable housing and to reach our goals. That's what by me living there at Cogswell Hall, I'm reaching my goals.
So it sounds to me like there's the case management helps individuals reach a goal. What if transportation is a barrier for an individual? Is Cogswell Hall able to help with that?
We do. If somebody has no other alternative, our staff will go. But, we only usually have one staff person on at a time, and we have 41 individuals living there. So we really ask people to try to find their transportation if they can. But if somebody needs to get to the doctors or somebody needs to go to a special program or something, our staff will definitely transport them.
But you'll help with teaching that transportation or connect them with RTA?
Yes, absolutely.
To be able to
We've
treat
done that too. We've had sessions of let's take the bus, let's show you how to do this.
Awesome.
So we use whatever resources we can find.
So I know when Greg and I were talking with you about before, as we were planning for you to come out, you had said Cogswell Hall doesn't accept the Medicaid waivers. So if they don't accept waivers, how are people paying for these services?
Well, that's always the challenge. So Cogswell Hall, like most nonprofits, has to piece together lots of different funding to make it a stable home. It costs us about $1,800 a month per person to run Cogswell Hall. And our average rent is $270 a month. So we really have to figure out how to make up that difference. Now, we're blessed as an organization because of the Women's Christian Temperance Union. About a third of our budget comes from a foundation they started in the 1920s. But that's just 1/3. So we piece together everything else. We do have some money coming in for our homeless services, that's specific to homeless services, operating money for the organization. But then we fundraise. We do a lot of fundraising. We depend on individual donations. We depend on corporations. We depend on you, the listeners out there, to make donations so that people can have this quality home.
Wow. Remember, you can join us. If you have any questions for Diana or Lynette, please join us at 216-578-1490. We're going to go to commercial. When we come back, I know, Greg, you've done some research for us, so I'm looking forward to hearing the research.
Auto insurance, SR22 insurance, homeowners insurance, or commercial insurance. Call 216-691-9227 for a free insurance quote. With over 22 years of experience, Washington and Company Insurance Agency will save you money on your auto, SR22, homeowners, or commercial insurance with liability starting as low as $35 a month and full coverage starting as low as $70 a month. Whatever your insurance needs are, call 216-691-9227. Washington and Company Insurance Agency for a free quote. Visit newstalkcleveland.com to sign up for the One VIP card from American Express Serve. Get free early direct deposit, ATM use, and online bill payment. Your money matters.
Cleveland evening. This is Hamtonio. Tune in each and every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. to 360 Info and join our growing audience of informed listeners. Free your mind and everything else will follow. Listen as we discuss business, finance, holistic health, history, and empowering topics to strengthen, inform, and enlighten the community in which we live. Each and every Saturday at 11 a.m. Join me and my array of dynamic co-hosts, 360 Info, not waiting for history, but making history.
Hello, this is Donna Gilcher of Starfish Speaks. Join us every Sunday, 1 to 2 on WERE 1490 to discuss hot topics in education. We will talk about resources in the community that address the needs of children with disabilities and enhance the lives of parents and much more. So join us every Sunday, 1 to 2 on WERE 1490 for Starfish Speaks. If you have a question, we have answers.
Red Eye Radio, Sunday mornings from 1 until 6 a.m.
Hi, this is Eric.
And I'm Gary.
We're from Red Eye Radio.
And we're the guys that stay up late with you or get you up early. And we talk about the news, entertainment, sports, or whatever's on your mind, the important issues and the not so important issues. We'll help you get your new day started off right.
It's Red Eye Radio, the early morning show.
Red Eye Radio, 1 to 6 a.m. Sunday mornings, right here on News Talk 1490 WERE and streaming live on BlackPlanetRadio.com.
Man, it's time for basketball to get started again. This season is going to be crazy, and I'm going to as many games as I can.
You might be styling in those seats, but how you gonna get there? You better get your bus fare ready, because that ride you got ain't gonna make it. You need to check out North Coast Auto Mall at 1-800-AUTO-DEAL. They'll set you up.
Yeah, I heard they commercials. As little as 99 cents down, right? Man, come on. $1 ain't getting you nothing nowadays.
North Coast Auto Mall is legit, and we're talking about Navis, Beamers, Tahoes, Mustangs, you know, them type of dope rides that'll have you driving like a king. All you gotta do is call North Coast Auto Mall at 1-800-AUTO-DEAL. And bruh, don't worry about that credit of yours. I know it's kind of funny. They'll work around it. You'll be riding in one of them sweet rides in no time.
Ah, give it a try. Where they at?
North Coast Auto Mall got 3 different spots. At Pearl and Brook Park in Parma, across from the Chapel Hill Mall in Akron, and on Broadway on the Bedford Auto Mile. All 3 online at 1-800-AUTODEAL.com.
You know what? When I get that car, I'm going to see if I can drive it in the championship parade.
Welcome back to Starfish Speaks. I know when we left for break, Greg, you're going to share this amazing program that's offered in Ohio, the Stable Accounts.
Yes.
Tell us what you found out.
Well, I actually got introduced to the Stable Account this past summer when I attended the ADA celebration. And what I found out about the Stable Account is it's open to all people with developmental disabilities before the age of 26. So if you were diagnosed, if you had your disability before the age of 26, then you're eligible for this account. And it's just like a bank account, basically. It can be used for basic living expenses, housing, transportation, accessible technology, employment training, education, legal fees, financial management, health and wellness. And all you need is $50 to open that account.
All right, so now I want to make sure, because I've been at some of these classes about it and whatever. Anybody can put money into it, correct?
Yes.
For a person with a disability.
Yes.
And the amazing thing is that I think you can do, it's tax-free,
yes,
$14,000 a year.
Exactly.
See, I was thinking, you know, a lot of us parents have done these college 529 accounts and whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's like a 529 account for living,
right?
And whatever. Sounds awesome. All right, so hold on, Greg. We have a caller on the phone, I think, that has a question. Welcome. I understand this is Marion. Where are you calling from?
Actually, I'm calling from Lakeland, Florida.
Hey, Mary. Welcome. What's your question for today?
I was wondering, isn't there some kind of since these people have disabilities, isn't there some kind of a grant or something they can get to make up their the difference between what they're paying or their Social Security?
Oh, that's a good question.
That is a good question.
So most grants out there in the world do not go to individuals. They actually go to organizations for doing charitable work. So I actually don't know of anything that an individual could apply for that would help them with their living expenses. And that's one of the difficulties is there
Wouldn't
isn't
it
a...
be worth a try?
Yes, actually, most foundations will say that say that you cannot apply if you're an individual.
Right.
You have to be a charitable organization in order to apply for money. But the stable account, I mean, I think is a great alternative because my understanding from what Greg has just told us and previous conversation Donna and I had, that, you know, a parent could put money aside for their child, and that could be a supplemental to what the person gets from Social Security.
So I was just sitting here. Wait a minute, I'm just sitting here doing some math. Takes me a little bit of time to do that, but
and it doesn't affect your Social Security if you get it.
So if a parent puts from the moment, Mary, that was a great question, and there aren't personal grants, but you know what? The thing that would be cool is if a parent from the time a child gets diagnosed, they could put $50 a month into the stable account. So that's $700 a year. And I believe the stable account can either be like a bank account or it could be medium kind of investments, or you could even do high risk investments. So you're going to make money in this account. And so if you figure in 20 years, you've made what, $140,000 minimum just putting $50 a month in? Is that math right?
I don't know. Not thinking fast enough.
Right.
So you said $700 a year?
$700 a year for 20 years.
Like
$14,000 right there.
Right.
Just with $50.
Exactly.
But God, imagine every birthday present from Grandma and Grandpa could go into this. This, you know, this is a great program, and I just want to share with Greg what Greg shared. For those of you that are not aware of the stable account, it actually, those listeners in the rest of the country, Ohio's is known as the best of the stable accounts across the nation. If you live in California, you can put your child's money and you can set up a stable account for them here in Ohio. So this is one of those great shining things for Ohio. Now, how do people access the stable account, Gregory?
Well, all you do, you can enroll on stableaccount.com and follow the enrollment process there. And all you do is you fill out the application and then you just deposit $50 into the account and it comes in the mail.
Awesome.
You should receive it in the mail within 10 to 14 days.
So is it like a debit card or a credit card that you use?
It's like a debit card.
A debit card.
Yeah, it's like a debit card.
Okay, so now here's a question, Greg. Because, you know, I know that I'm not the only parent that has kids that, you know, they have a debit card that has $1,000-some on it. The very first thing they're going to think about is, whoo, new computer, new game system.
No, you have to be smart with your money. It's not just all about spend, because, you know, while that's okay and that's all good, but you have to, like I said, you can use this card for housing, transportation, assistive technology, employment training, education, all of the important stuff that most kids nowadays don't really think about.
Right.
But as you get older, that's stuff you have to think about.
So as a parent, can I limit certain categories of money for my kids too?
Yes.
Oh, this is a great deal, guys.
You like that one?
Give us that address again.
Yes, it's www.stableaccount.com.
And we'll put some information on the website, too, about that. So here's the question. So if a person has a stable account, a parent has started that account, can they use that money for being able to? Because unfortunately, we have some young adults who are not qualifying for SSI.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So Cogswell Hall, where it is presently, has to be low income. So it's a low income housing.
Right.
However, I mean, if we had another Cogswell Hall where we could do mixed or integrated housing with people from all income levels, so maybe someone doesn't qualify for SSI, but maybe their parents have a stable account and they want to, pay.
You know what?
Price.
It's not always a matter that the individual, because as soon as you turn 18,
Yes.
You're an income of your own.
Right.
So an individual would be considered low income because they're not
Right.
working. But for some crazy reason, some individuals with disabilities are being denied SSI
Exactly.
simply because there is a perception that they could do, or, one of the things that I got recently was, well, the person could go to McDonald's and get a job, and the person has severe allergies that would forbid them from being in that kind of environment. And the person goes, well, then it's their choice. And we're like, are you kidding? So parents are all the time trying to fight this, and young adults are, and it's hard to fight SSI.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
I mean, I know people that have had difficulties with that, and so that's where I think people are really in a bind. They aren't able to get the job, they aren't able to earn their own income. They're not able to get the government assistance that.
And then they end up on the street.
Then they end up on the street. And then, they may be able to get into some kind of subsidized housing. It's very possible. But you still, there's a lot more to it than just getting the roof over the head. There's the whole service part of it that helps somebody to actually, put the pieces together and become even more independent.
Right. So that's what I want to talk to you about that. So I know that last year you had this whole theme that each story, and this year your theme has been poverty truths. You've focusing on these two themes. So I'm assuming there's a reason for it, but also what kind of services and how do these goals get set at Cogswell Hall for their.
So our services are very individualized. When somebody arrives at Cogswell Hall, they are introduced to our supportive services staff, and our staff sit with them and talk with them, kind of about their life, where they are, what kinds of challenges they feel they're up against, what kinds of goals do you have, what dreams do you have for your life. And then together, they try to put together a plan. And, this plan changes all the time, as it would with all of us. We start doing one thing and we say, no, that's not quite it.
And then it's something else.
And then it's something else. But it really is trying to help somebody from a very individual point of view. What is it makes sense for you? What is it? For some people, it's trying to get their physical health in line. Because that's interfering with everything else that they're trying to do in their life. Some people have dreams of one day living in a different state, or having a car, or having their apartment. And so what we do is try to help people incrementally work toward that. Whatever it is that the person wants. It's not up to us. It's up to whoever the individual is that they would like to do. And there have been some great successes in terms of that. I remember one young man, in fact, there's a little video clip of him. We have a YouTube channel, and there's a video clip of Tyrone. Tyrone came to us at the age of 23 after being homeless. Was very surprised to be homeless at the age of 23. And it took him 4 years of work, but then he was able to get his own apartment, get a full-time job, and is now moving and progressing in his life to other kinds of things that he wants to do. So it's that kind of stuff.
Really supportive kind of environment.
Very, very supportive. And the other piece that we do is, besides the individual, is all the community stuff. We try to build community amongst people. And so Lynette was talking about one of our staff who works every other weekend, does these creative expression. We have another staff that does a book club. We do things like movie night. People come together and we teach microwave cooking because they have microwaves in their room. And so,
Yes.
we do all kinds of things. One of the fun things that everybody likes is the fifth Friday. There's 4 months of the year that has a fifth Friday. So we do a fifth Friday celebration, and they usually have the theme. The theme might be something to do with culture, or it might be something because it lands in a month that there's a particular holiday. And people come together and in the programming, learn about each other. So one of the things I love about the book club is you're reading a book, but then you have a discussion about it, and next thing you know, two residents are learning something about each other they never knew, and they say, "Oh, we have this in common." This is something, so it develops more relationship.
Well, I got to tell you, I'd like to move in.
Okay.
But we have a whole list. We have a whole list.
As you literally described this to me, my best years, I think most of us adults, we think back so romantically to living in the college dorms and having that kind of camaraderie, always somebody down the hall kind of thing, the movie nights, the theme nights and all of that. So it's actually, you got like a grown-up dorm, an adult
sort of
dorm style.
This almost sounds like college for real.
It sounds like college.
Like, man.
It's awesome. So, all right. So, Lynette, anything to add about why it's so important and you love it so much?
I love it. It makes Cogswell Hall so unique that we never be bored. We always have something to do, and like the book club Diana was saying, and we have like once a year, every year, we have this fundraiser, and I'm part of the fundraiser because I'm on the executive board committee and the development committee. So I think, being on the board, it makes me gain independence, make me like I can accomplish my goals.
So wait a minute, you're on the board of directors, but you said
Yes,
you
ma'am.
were a resident.
Yeah, I am. I'm a resident on the executive board.
Yes.
How does that work?
So
Wonderful.
we have part of what we believe is that everybody should have a voice, and we value everybody's opinion, and so we do that in lots of different ways. One is residents can apply to be a member of the board of directors, and Lynette applied, and she became a member of the board of directors. We also have two other residents who serve on our program committee, which is one of the committees of the board. So people get involved that way. We also have what's called Resident Circle, which is kind of like a tenant association, but it really is also a place where people can bring up issues and stuff. And if they can raise issues like maybe a particular policy isn't working for them, and they can raise the issue, and it can kind of come up through the program committee and come up to the board. So in a sense, Lynette's a resident, but in a sense, she's also my boss, because she's one of the 14 board members. So she's one of my 14 bosses.
Oh, that's awesome.
It
so
is.
now, you know what? I do have a question, because a lot of people that are homeless.
I do too.
All right, follow up. Hold on 1 second. A lot of people are homeless. And you're talking about this book club, which sounds fun, but what if you don't know how to read?
Well, I mean, if that's one of the issues that somebody's facing, if for some reason maybe you've learned to read a little bit, but your reading level isn't where you would want it to be in order to join a book club, then one of the things we do is we work with lots of other agencies in the community, so that if somebody wants to get more proficient in their reading, then our staff will figure out which organization would work best for them to accomplish that goal. We're not necessarily going to start every program. We don't do a lot of work on employment because there are so many agencies that do employment. So we connect people with those agencies, and then we do the in-house support. We're the cheerleader. We're the one that helps them get to where they need to get to. We're the one that's kind of being the positive force that says, yes, you can do this.
Awesome.
Yeah, and also Diana, about helping residents to get employment, because I go to Magnolia Clubhouse, which is in University Circle, 2 days a week, and I go to the music school settlement next door, and I've taken refreshers piano course. I want to maintain that goal. I want to reach that goal, and Magnolia Clubhouse is helping me work towards employment.
Awesome.
So, that's cool. Yeah. Magnolia Clubhouse, that's right there by me.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's a great program. A number of our residents use it. You had a question,
This is like
Greg.
quite intriguing, yeah. Do you have to be a resident to be on the board of directors and all of that? How does that work?
No. We have lots of community members who are board members. And in fact, we're always open to having people join one of our board committees. Cool. If you have an interest in the work that we do and you'd like to be able to give back in that capacity, we have a lot of people from corporations, or maybe they are retired and they're looking for something else to do, and they could contact me at Cogswell Hall, and we could talk about that.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right. We got to take a quick break. We'll thank Washington and Company Insurance again. Thanks so much for sponsoring us today. We'll be back. Give us a call, 216-578-1490.
That wasn't just a question. I was
insurance or commercial insurance. Call 216-691-9227 for a free insurance quote. With over 22 years of experience, Washington and Company Insurance Agency will save you money on your auto, SR22, homeowners, or commercial insurance with liability starting as low as $35 a month and full coverage starting as low as $70 a month. Whatever your insurance needs are, call 216-691-9227. Washington and Company Insurance Agency for a free quote.
This is Reverend Al Sharpton. Join the National Action Network, not because of what we have done, because we have done much, but because of what we are still doing. We need action around voting rights. We need action around health care. We need action around dealing with the injustice in the criminal justice system. Be a member of the Action Network that's out now, fighting for you. Call 1-877-626-4651 or go online to www.nationalactionnetwork.net and become a part of the action.
Eric was way behind on his taxes.
I owed a lot of money to the IRS, almost $15,000. I tried to make payments.
The IRS wasn't satisfied with Eric's efforts, so they came after him full force.
They're coming to put a lien and a hold on all my income, my home, my car. I was just overwhelmed at what to do.
Then Eric called Optima Tax Relief.
When Optima Tax got involved, the calls would stop, the threats would stop. It was easy like 1, 2, 3.
Optima Tax Relief is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, and their team of expert tax professionals took care of Eric's problem.
I owe $15,000, and now my debt is clean. I don't owe anything.
Take Eric's advice.
If you have a tax problem, you need to call Optima Tax now.
Call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-279-6822. 800-279-6822. 800-279-6822.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Jacarius Johnson is back with another hit show. Two can play that game. The movie you love is now a stage play. When men start playing around, women will even the score. Starring the one and only Vivica A. Fox, Portia Williams from The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Gary Jordan from Being Mary Jane, comedian Coco Brown, Carl Payne from Monk, from Scandal, it's Columbus Short, and R&B sensation Vivian Green. October 22nd at the Playhouse Square State Theater. Tickets available at the box office, playhousesquare.org, or charge by phone.
WERE Cleveland Heights, WENZ HD2, and WZAK HD3 Cleveland.
Welcome back. We're talking with Starfish Speaks, and we have Cogswell Hall here, Diana Cyganovich and Lynette Collier, and we've been having an amazing conversation about Cogswell Hall in Cleveland. And I want to ask this question because your model sounds amazing, and it's innovative, and I love that the residents are part of the executive board, that there's a tenants association that they're part of. They're working on goals. You're connecting with all the agencies that we have in Cleveland. So, Diana, here's the $100,000 question for you.
Do I get $100,000 if I answer it right?
Uh-oh.
That'd be very helpful
big money
today.
now.
Let me tell you, I wish that I could give it to you. But you know what? I bet that there is some company out there, some business out there in this country that wants to make a difference in people's lives. Maybe they'll send it over. But here's the question, all right? It's a great housing model. So how can this be replicated in other cities? We have people, we know for a fact, we've had people call in from Hawaii. They have a huge homeless population, and a lot of them have disabilities. We've had California, Florida, New York. So tell us, could this model that you're doing in Cleveland be replicated, and how?
Yes, this model could be replicated, and I guess there's a couple parts to the answer here. I think, as I said before, one of the things that makes us unique is the way we've designed the building, the way it was originally designed and the way we continue the design. If you want a community building kind of organization, then you have to build your building with spaces that people naturally congregate like you would as a family. You can't, there are wonderful permanent supportive housing buildings all over the country, and they do great work. There's a lot of homeless folks that have been long-term homeless who have disabilities that have gotten housed and their services on site. The difference between them and our model is that environment, is the environment that allows people to not only formally go to see somebody, but informally spend a lot of time together. The other piece of it is you have to figure out how, one of the things is we work where people live. Our entire staff is in the same building as the residents. And so there's an extended family there. And I'm not sure you have to have all the administrative staff in the same building, but you do have to have support services staff that's very accessible and not just in an office off in a corner. You have to have them kind of integrated into the whole of the community and to be part of that community and to be doing lots of different things. And so the other thing I would say is it's important to have some people there, service people that are very are generalists and are people who can be on site for at least 12 hours a day. From like 9 in the morning or 8 in the morning till 9 or 10 at night. Because that makes a difference. People are out. Some people are out in the evening. Some people are out in the morning. If you want to get to know who you're working with and you want them to be part of the whole, you have to do that. And you also have to do not only individual work, but you have to do that group work. You have to have those group activities that naturally bring people together. We go places like Jamie's Flea Market. We've gone to Wade Oval. So it is replicable, but it is costly. Like I said, it costs about $1,800 per person. I think the difficulty is that most people who have disabilities are low-income folks, and you're not going to be able to continue doing this work without support from other organizations or foundations or the government or families. If families were willing to put in extra for folks, that would make a difference too. So maybe you could consider doing one that's not all low income. Maybe you do one that's mixed.
Wow.
But
so let me ask you a question. Is Cogswell Hall looking to do a mixed where families could actually pay for their young adults to live in this collaborative community?
Yeah. So Cogswell Hall right now is in a discerning process of where's our next step. We've grown on our site as much as we've grown. We know we have a great model. We know there's a need out there. Our waiting list is 3 to 5 years. That's huge.
Parents, if you want to get your kids into this model, as soon as they hit 10th grade, you got to call Cogswell Hall and get your kids on the
get them on the waiting list.
Get them on the waiting list.
That's about right. But the other piece of that is we have not decided what direction we need to go in. We know the need is there, but if we're going to be opening up additional sites, we do need to start talking about how do we have an integrated model where some people they can't afford to pay the $1,800 or $2,000 a month, but some people can. And it's something that's on the table.
Well, I got to tell you, in the autism community, there's an awful lot of parents that would love to see that discussion and love to be part of that discussion as it moves forward. All right, we have Hans on the line. Welcome, Hans. Welcome to Starfish Speaks and our discussion. What's your question?
Yeah, thanks. And I'm one of the people who's glad to be working at Cogswell Hall with Diana. And so, Diana, I'm glad you brought up the waiting list. That was what I wanted to hear you reflect on a little bit is what are the alternatives for people while they're on our waiting list that you know of? It is kind of a long wait for folks to get a place at Cogswell Hall. What happens to people in the meantime? Do you have any thoughts on that?
That's a great question, Hans.
Yeah, thanks, Hans. That is a very good question. Well, what we do know is that a number of people end up living couch to couch. Some people do become homeless. in the meantime. Some people are staying maybe temporarily with relatives. We've had people stay with a relative for 2 years knowing they were on the waiting list. And so the family hangs in there, but it's not necessarily the best environment because maybe it's a small house. It doesn't work for everybody, but people will do it. So people just try to figure out what they can do in the meantime. Some people, I hate to say this, stay in some pretty deplorable places while they're on the waiting list. Maybe they have housing, but maybe it's substandard housing, but that's all they can afford, and so they kind of hang in there until they can get there. Yeah,
that's unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate.
All right. And you know what, Hans, that was a great question. So, Hans, what's your role at Cogswell Hall?
I'm in the development and marketing office, so our job is to tell the story of Cogswell Hall as best we can to people out there, including through wonderful radio programs like this, and also to encourage people to give of their resources toward this really great model of helping people, and that includes financial gifts, it includes in-kind gifts, includes volunteer time, and so those are the ways in which we work to try to keep our website up to date and keep our Facebook page going, and on all those ways that we can think of to keep the community increasingly aware that we're there and of what we're doing.
So I was going to ask Diana this question, but I think you're better suited for it. So how can the people in the community support Cogswell Hall right this minute? If someone wants to be able to write you a check, or they're doing their end-of-life planning and they'd like to leave some money from their estate to you, how could they do it?
Well, number one is for those who want to make a gift right away to go to our website and click on that very prominent donate ribbon there, and they can easily give a gift by credit card. It's also possible to give by check or by gifts of stock. We can receive, and cash, we can receive gifts in many ways. Checks can be made out to Cogswell Hall and mailed to us at our address, which you'll find on the website. And we are delighted to have people name us in their wills or in their trusts, or if there's a life insurance policy that they don't need anymore and would like to write over to us, we're delighted to have that. Some folks, when they turn 70 and a half, have a decision to make about an IRA and rolling that over, and if they make a charitable contribution in that way, it can be advantageous to them as well as to us. So we are delighted to discuss all these different ways of giving of financial gifts to Cogswell Hall, and you can do that by sending an email to me at HHOLZNAGEL@cogswellhall.org. Better to just look that up on the website.
All right, Hans,
or just call us at 216-961-1568, and my extension is 311.
All right, so Hans, could you repeat that again slowly, because I couldn't even get it written down fast enough for our website. So if you could repeat it.
All right, our website is cogswellhall.org, and you can phone us at 216-961-1568. My extension is 311, or you can talk to Diana herself at extension 302.
Right.
And you can find our email addresses in the staff section of our website. Rather than try to repeat those long email addresses, let me just recommend that folks go to cogswellhall.org and click the donate button or look us up on the staff section.
Well, that's great. Hans, I'm so glad you called in and shared that information, because I think, we've got people out there that may want to give. This is absolutely well worth it. And for those of us in the autism community that have young adults, will be having young adults, we want to help encourage Cogswell Hall to have that discussion about more housing opportunities and mixed housing opportunities, because we do know that in the autism community especially, there are a lot of families that have financial means, and it's not financial means to get good housing for their kids. Right. It's the fact of they don't have a community, and so placing their young adults in an apartment building is easy. Bringing in staff is easy, but it's staff. They're paid to be there, and I can't even tell you how many young adults that I've said, and I hear them say, and they're broken home situations because they're paid staff. They're not friends. I can't develop a community with them. I don't have any likes with them. And it sounds to me at Cogswell Hall, there's a large enough diverse population that you would find a friend. You could have a best friend. You've got the opportunity to gather and share meals together, and nobody's being paid to be there with you. Other than the few paid staff, that's everybody, but the residents aren't being paid,
right.
Which is something that young adults all the time tell me.
I would love to hear from people who are interested in having a dialogue about what kind of housing, how could we replicate this model. I mean, as I said, we're in a discerning process. We have a strategic plan, and in the next 6 to 8 months, we need to make a decision about direction of the organization. And so if there are folks out there who would like to have this conversation with me, I would be more than happy to have it, and they can certainly call me at the phone number
216-961-1568.
And my extension is 302. Or you can go to the website and you can look up any one of us. The staff all have emails. Yes. And so if you could get in touch with us. And we'd be happy to be, having that conversation. In fact, the consultants who will be working with us on this decision-making process would be more than happy to have focus groups around this to see if this is a possibility for us. I don't want to promise anybody that we're going to do this because we aren't sure. We know the need is there, but we'd have to figure it out.
Well, the community has to rise up and support you.
Right.
So, as Greg knows, we always ask this last question, and you got less than a minute to tell it to us.
Yes.
And whatever. Lynette?
Yes.
What would be your thought that you want to share, the absolute that you want people listening to our show to know today?
That like Diana said, get affordable housing that fits appropriately according to the income of individuals with various disabilities. And Hans said if you want to know more about Cogswell Hall, is go to their website, cogswellhall.org.
All right. Diana, your final thought.
I think that I would just like to thank all the people out there who are listening, who are taking the time to listen, to know that our door is open for conversation, to know that we are looking for people who are willing to come and help us in this work. So feel free to contact us. This is, I'm privileged to be able to go to work every day in somebody's home.
Oh, I love it.
And I'm also privileged that Diana is our director, and she's an awesome person.
You've been with Starfish Speaks today. I hope that we've given you some information. Please join us every Sunday from 1 to 2. We're glad you're here with us. Goodbye, and have a wonderful week.
Hi, Mom.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Moving like a dancer in a perfect dream. Take my time. Wait with you. Make it last. Keep it true. I love her. Love me too. I alone know me. Something of believing up in everything. Tell me you agree. Moving like a dancer in a perfect dream. Here we go. Make a show. Take me in. When you go, day or night, follow signs. I alone know me. Something of believing up in everything. Tell me you agree. Moving like a dancer in a perfect dream.
The proceeding was a paid program brought to you by Starfish Speaks. The views and opinions expressed are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of this station or its management.
This is a
WDRE
paid
Cleveland High
program.
School.